The Wizard Without a Wand. The Final Brushstrokes. There once was a wizard who wasn't quite all there. Her story goes something like this. Appli Kay. Appli Kay Wisper thought that things at Wizard School would be different. Why had she thought that? Well, it was Wizard School, and well, wizards were different. And maybe things were different here, but for her, things were the same. People still walked through Appli as if she wasn't there. Of course she was there. She was she was going to say solid as a brick, but she thought of bricks as being rather plain, and she certainly was anything but plain. Well, she couldn't think for the moment of something which was solid but which was not plain, so Appli got out her paintbrush and painted a scene, hoping it would have something solid in it. All Appli needed to paint with was her paintbrush. The air was her canvas, the light rays were her colors. When she was finished, she had painted a field. It was a field with very large rocks in it. These rocks were anything but plain. That was it! She was solid as a rock. But then another student walked right through her, and she wasn't so sure again. Not only did people walk right through her, they ignored her and never talked to her. She thought more than once about going back home, back to some other school, or maybe back to her old school. But then she remembered that things had actually been worse there. Not only did people walk straight through her, there was no place for her to get away. Here, at least, there were some open places where not too many people went. True, most of these places were dragon dens, but the dragons, as big and scary as they were, kept their distance from Appli Kay Wisper. It was as though they were scared of her. But no, that couldn't be true. And if it were, there weren't her chances of ever riding one and becoming a Nessie and graduating the second year. Then there were the teachers. The teachers didn't exactly walk through her. In fact, Appli wasn't exactly sure what happened. But at times she and a teacher would be walking towards each other. Then at the exact point in time when the teacher was going to walk through her, or they would collide, Appli would close her eyes. When she opened them a fraction second later, the teacher would somehow be behind her, without having walked through her, and without them having collided. Well, at least the teachers didn't walk through her. However, when she went to class, the class would start and the lesson would begin. But then quite often the class would end, almost before it had started. That kind of happened in her old school. But now it seemed it had been stepped up a notch, or perhaps several notches. Come on, Appli, she told herself. Make up your mind. Stay or go. It's one or the other. You can't do both. Instead, she painted. The field which she painted sure looked nice, and uninhabited. She would have to visit it one day. Fractoseconds. There were only a few people at Wizard School who truly understood what a fractosecond was. That short list included at most 5 people: Professor McDonald, Shemedley, the Rumbledack, Appli Kay Wisper, and possibly Ellipsin Sigma Omicron and Whittaker Derivated the Fourth. Professor McDonald, being the professor of wizard math, understands it. Shemedley the Rumbledack, being a wizard math whiz, understands it. Ellipsin Sigma Omicron, being the smartest student in wizard school, kinda sorta gets it, as does Whittaker Derivated the Fourth, who is the professor of Formulaca. Appli would be the first to admit that she was not very good at wizard math. In fact, in her mind, she's not very good at all at wizard math. Yet, she knew full well what a fractosecond was, whereas Shemedley knew exactly how long a nanosecond was and how long a near nanosecond was. Appli couldn't tell the difference between the two. She also couldn't tell the difference between a nanosecond and a picosecond, which is much shorter, or the difference between a nanosecond and a microsecond, which is much longer. So she just lumped them all together. She called them fractoseconds, which was short for fractions of a second. And this is exactly what some wizard mathematician had done many, many years ago. That mathematician had come up with an overarching or meta term for other parts of a second. He had brilliantly, at least in his mind, called them all fractoseconds. He'd explained to anyone who would listen that fractoseconds meant any portion of time which was less than a second. Or more succinctly, it meant any fraction of a second. Of course, that wizard mathematician has stated this all in very complex terms, complete with proofs. He published a paper on fractoseconds, a very short summary of which eventually made it into the Wizard Math book. So, in a very simple way, Appli understood a very complex theory of wizard math, without realizing that this was something which she shouldn't understand. Appli also understood a very complex theory of Formulaca. In Formulaca, that concept is expressed as, if something were to happen, then something else could happen. Appli expressed this as, if I had friends, they would call me Kay.